The floorboards beneath my boots shouldn't be warm. Not here, not in November, not in a building that's been sealed for 3 months with no fire lit, no breath stirring the air except mine. But the wood pulses with heat like fevered skin, and when I press my palm flat against the hallway floor, I feel something that makes my stomach clench, a rhythm, steady, deliberate, as if the hotel itself has a heartbeat. I'm Thomas Brennan, and I was sent here to catalog furniture for the estate sale. Simple work. 4 days, they said. Document what's salvageable from the Williams family hotel before they tear it down. But when I arrived at dawn, I found the front door already open, not broken, not forced, just standing ajar as if welcoming me in. The chain the family had wrapped around the handles lay coiled on the ground like a shed snake skin, the lock still fastened through its links. Someone had unlocked it from the inside. The smell hit me first. Copper. That unmistakable metallic sweetness of old blood mixed with something else. Rotting flowers and damp earth, like standing at the edge of a fresh grave. My lantern throws shadows that move wrong, bending against the flow of light instead of away from it. The wallpaper, once probably elegant with its repeating pattern of birds and branches, has peeled in long strips that curl toward the floor, revealing dark stains underneath. Not water damage, the marks are too deliberate, too symmetrical. They look like hands, dozens of handprints pressed into the plaster, overlapping, reaching upward toward the ceiling as if trying to claw their way out of the walls themselves. In the main parlor, I find the first entry in the ledger. It's sitting open on a dust-covered desk, the pages yellowed but the ink still dark. Fresh. The handwriting is cramped, urgent, and it takes me a moment to recognize it as belonging to Elizabeth Williams, the matriarch who ordered the hotel closed. The entry is dated 3 days ago. It watches us through the mirrors. We covered them all, but we can still feel its gaze. Mother Sarah says we brought this upon ourselves, that the hotel remembers. She won't explain what she means, but she's been standing in the kitchen since midnight, staring at the place where we buried the... The sentence ends mid-word, the pen dragged across the page in a violent slash that tore through 3 sheets beneath. My hands are shaking as I turn the pages backward, searching for context. The entries go back weeks, then months, but they're not continuous. Gaps of days, sometimes weeks, between writings. The earlier entries are mundane, guest complaints, supply orders, mentions of travelers passing through. Then, in late August, the tone shifts. A guest in room 7 left without paying. We found his belongings still in the room, clothes folded, money pouch full. His bed was made with military precision, but there were scratches on the inside of the door. Deep ones, as if he'd been trying to get out. Another disappearance. Room 12 this time. Mrs. Halstead. She was traveling to Boston to visit her sister. We found her trunk packed and her shoes by the bed, but the woman herself has vanished. The strange part, her shoes were placed toes inward, facing the wall. No one noticed when she left. No one heard a door open or close. It's as if she simply ceased to exist between one moment and the next. The servants are refusing to clean the upper floors. They say the doors won't stay closed, that they lock them at night and find them standing open in the morning. My husband checked every latch himself. He found nothing wrong with the mechanisms. But when he tried to demonstrate by locking room 9, the door swung open behind him before he'd taken 3 steps away. There was no wind, no draft. Just the soft click of the latch and that low creak of hinges that sounds almost like breathing. I should leave. Every instinct screams at me to drop this ledger and walk out. But the heat from the floorboards has spread up through my boots, into my legs, and I realize with cold certainty that I've been standing here for far too long. The light outside the windows has shifted. What was morning gray is now afternoon gold, but I haven't moved, haven't eaten, haven't even thought about the time passing. The hotel is doing something to time itself. I force myself to look away from the ledger, and that's when I notice the stairs. The grand staircase that curves up to the second floor should be visible from where I stand. I saw it when I first entered. But now there's just wall. Solid wall papered in that same bird and branch pattern, as if the stairs never existed at all. My heart hammers against my ribs. I take 3 steps to my left, and the stairs reappear exactly where they should be. 3 steps back, and they're gone again, replaced by unbroken wall. The hotel is showing me what it wants me to see. A floorboard creaks above me. Distinct, deliberate, the sound of weight shifting from heel to toe. Then another. Someone is walking in the room directly overhead. Slow, measured steps, pacing back and forth. Back and forth. I count 17 steps before they stop. Then silence so complete it feels like pressure against my eardrums. I take the stairs. Each step groans under my weight, but the sound is wrong. Too wet, too organic, like stepping on something that was once alive. The banister is slick beneath my palm, and when I lift my hand, my skin comes away sticky with a clear residue that smells faintly of salt. Tears, I think, and immediately wish I hadn't. The second floor hallway stretches impossibly long, doors lining both sides like teeth in a jaw. Most are closed, but 3 stand open, rooms 7, 9, and 12, the disappeared guests. The doors frame perfect rectangles of darkness, and even my lantern light seems reluctant to enter, pooling at the thresholds as if held back by something unseen. I choose room 7. The smell inside is overwhelming, that same copper-flower-earth combination, but concentrated, thick enough to coat the back of my throat. The room is exactly as described. Clothes folded on the chair, money pouch on the nightstand. Bed made with crisp, perfect corners. And the door. The inside of the door is covered in scratches. Not random panic scratches. These are deliberate, methodical. Someone carved words into the wood with their fingernails, the letters gouged deep enough that splinters of wood curl away from each stroke. Not alone. It comes when you sleep. The mirrors lie. She's still here. Below the words, handprints. Dozens of them overlapping, pressed into the wood with such force that the door has warped. But these handprints are wrong. The fingers are too long, the palms too narrow, as if whatever made them wasn't quite human, or was human once, but has been changing. I hear it then, a soft sound from inside the room's wardrobe, not a creak or a settling, a breath, the slow, measured intake and exhale of someone trying very hard to stay quiet. My hand moves to the wardrobe door before my mind catches up, and I'm pulling it open, lamp raised, ready to find empty. Completely empty except for a single dress hanging from a hook. But the dress is swaying. Gentle back and forth motion as if someone just stepped out of it seconds before I opened the door. The fabric is still warm. That's when I notice the mirror. It's mounted on the inside of the wardrobe door, angled so that it reflects the bed. Except the bed in the reflection isn't empty. A figure lies there, covers pulled up to its chin, perfectly still. I spin around. The actual bed is empty, sheets undisturbed, but in the mirror, the figure remains. As I watch, it sits up slowly. Its face is obscured by shadow, but I can see its hand emerge from the covers. It raises one finger and points directly at me. Then, it opens its mouth. The scream that comes out isn't loud, it's the opposite. A sound so quiet, it feels like it's coming from inside my own skull, a frequency that makes my teeth ache and my vision blur. The figure in the mirror stands, and I see it's wearing the dress from the wardrobe. It takes a step toward the mirror's surface, toward me, and I slam the wardrobe door shut so hard the wood cracks. My heart is a hammer. My lungs burn. The heat from the floorboards has become unbearable, and I realize I'm sweating through my clothes despite the November cold. I need to document this. I need evidence. I need to understand what the Williams family did. Because Elizabeth's ledger entry said it clearly. Mother Sarah says we brought this upon ourselves. What did they bring upon themselves? What did they do in this hotel that would cause it to become this? If you are not yet registered with Soul Whispers, now is the time. Because what comes next, what I found in the kitchen, in the basement, in the places the Williams family thought they could hide their sins, will make you question everything you believe about guilt, about punishment, and about what really happens when walls absorb enough suffering that they learn to remember. Some doors, once opened, lead places you can't return from. I'm about to walk through one. The only question is whether you're willing to follow. The kitchen is at the back of the hotel, down a narrow service hallway that seems to compress around me as I walk. The walls angle inward, the ceiling lowers until I'm hunched over, my shoulders brushing both sides. Claustrophobia claws at my throat. Then, abruptly, the space opens into a large room dominated by a massive iron stove and a butcher's block table stained black with age and use. Someone has been here recently. A cup of tea sits on the counter, still steaming. A chair is pulled away from the table at an odd angle, as if whoever sat there left in a hurry. And there, scratched into the floorboards near the stove, another message. We fed it what it wanted. The words are carved deep, filled with what looks like dried blood. But it's the floor itself that draws my attention. The boards near the stove are newer than the rest, lighter in color, fitted together poorly with gaps between them that reveal darkness underneath. Someone replaced this section recently, and they did it in a hurry. I kneel and work my fingers into one of the gaps. The board comes up easily, too easily, as if it's been lifted many times before. The smell that rises from below is so foul I gag. Rot and sewage and something chemical that burns my nostrils. I hold my lantern over the hole and peer down into a crawl space barely 3 feet deep. Bones. Not animal bones. Human. A skull grins up at me from the darkness, jaw hanging open, and scattered around it are ribs, vertebrae, long bones that could be arms or legs. But these bones aren't just dumped here. They're arranged, deliberately placed in a pattern that makes my skin crawl, a spiral, with the skull at the center, the other bones radiating outward in precise measured intervals. And they're not old. Scraps of fabric cling to some. Hair still attached to the skull, long and dark and matted with something that glistens wetly in the lamplight. This person died recently. Weeks, maybe. Not the months since the hotel was sealed. Someone has been inside this hotel. Someone has been feeding it. My hands shake as I lower the board back into place. The tea, the fresh handwriting in the ledger, the chain removed from the inside. The Williams family didn't just abandon this hotel. They've been coming back, returning to do what? Maintain some kind of ritual, continue whatever they started. I back away from the kitchen, my mind racing. Elizabeth's words echo. Mother Sarah says we brought this upon ourselves. The earliest entries in the ledger mentioned the hotel opening in late 1785, a family venture, a new beginning after. After what? I need to find more records. The office. There has to be an office where they kept contracts, deeds, correspondence. I move through the ground floor, opening doors, finding storage rooms and parlors and a small library. Then, behind a door marked private, I discover a cramped office with a desk, filing cabinet, and walls covered in papers pinned haphazardly, overlapping, obscuring each other. The papers are receipts, letters, newspaper clippings. I start reading, pulling them down, arranging them on the desk. A pattern emerges, a story. The Williams family, David and Elizabeth and David's mother Sarah, purchased this land in late 1785. The previous owner was a man named Thaddeus Cook, and according to a yellowed letter I find, he sold the property for a fraction of its value. The letter is addressed to Sarah Williams, and it's dated October 1785. Mrs. Williams, I accept your offer for the land on Salem Road. Take it with my blessing and my warning. I built that house with my own hands, raised my children there, buried my wife in the garden. But the land itself is cursed. My family called it Harrow's Field before I ever broke ground, named for the man who was hanged there in 1692. Jeremiah Harrow. They said he was a warlock, that he cursed the soil with his dying breath. I paid no mind to such superstition. I should have listened. The house took my wife first. She wasted away inside its walls, claimed by a sickness no doctor could name. Then my daughter, she drowned in the well, though the water was shallow enough that a child could stand. My sons fled as soon as they were old enough, and I don't blame them. The land wants blood, Mrs. Williams. It has always wanted blood. Build your hotel if you must, but know that every guest who sleeps there feeds something hungry, something that will never be satisfied. I wash my hands of it. May God forgive us both. My mouth goes dry. The hotel was built on an execution site, built deliberately on cursed ground. But why would Sarah Williams do that? Why would she? Another document. A medical bill from Salem town, dated 1784. Services rendered for Sarah Williams. Treatment for hysteria and melancholia following the death of her son, Jonathan Williams, age 19. Cause of death listed as drowning. A death notice in a Salem newspaper. Jonathan Williams, beloved son, tragically lost. Survived by mother Sarah, brother David, and sister-in-law Elizabeth. And then, this is what makes my blood run cold. A letter in Sarah's own hand, addressed to no one, dated shortly after Jonathan's death. They say drowning is painless if you don't fight it. But Jonathan fought. I know he did. Because I held him under. Because he looked at me with those eyes and I held him under until the bubbles stopped coming. They'll call it an accident. They'll say the current took him. But I know the truth. I know what I did. And I know that a mother's grief is a powerful thing, powerful enough to call back what was lost, powerful enough to make a bargain with what sleeps under cursed ground. Thaddeus Cook's letter told me what I needed. I will build a house on Harrow's Field. I will fill it with guests, and I will feed the hunger until it gives me back my son. The implications crash over me like a wave. Sarah Williams lost her son and went mad with grief. She learned about the cursed execution site and deliberately built the hotel there, believing she could make some kind of deal. Feed the entity beneath with guests, with their suffering, their deaths, and in exchange, bring Jonathan back. But it didn't work. Or it did, but not in the way she wanted. I'm still processing this when I hear the footsteps again, directly above me. Same room, same pacing pattern. 17 steps, then silence. Except this time, something's different. After the silence, there's a new sound. Dragging. Something heavy being pulled across the floor, wood scraping on wood, and then a wet thump. I count to 10, trying to steady my breathing. Then I leave the office and climb the stairs again, this time heading for the room where I hear the sounds. It's at the end of the hallway, room 17. The door is closed, but light shows through the crack beneath. Candlelight, flickering and yellow. I press my ear against the door. Someone is inside. I hear breathing, ragged and harsh, and a voice muttering, low, rhythmic, words I can't quite make out. Then, clear and sudden, not enough, never enough, he won't come back, won't. The voice breaks into sobbing. A woman's voice, old, cracked with age and desperation. I test the doorknob, unlocked. I push the door open slowly. The room is lit by a dozen candles arranged in a circle on the floor. In the center of the circle sits an old woman in a black dress, her white hair loose and wild around her shoulders. She's surrounded by objects, a small pile of clothing, a pair of boots, a leather-bound book, a pocket watch, personal belongings, tributes, offerings. She doesn't look up when I enter. She's rocking back and forth, hands pressed against the floorboards, and I see that her fingernails are bloody, worn down to nothing. She's been clawing at the floor. "Mrs. Williams?" I say softly. "Sarah Williams." Her head snaps up and I see her face for the first time. Ancient, withered, eyes sunk deep in their sockets, gleaming with a fevered madness that makes me want to step back. But it's her mouth that horrifies me most. Her lips are sewn shut, thick black thread zigzagging through the skin, the wounds fresh and weeping. She reaches up and begins pulling at the threads, tearing them out with her own fingers, ripping her flesh, blood streaming down her chin. The threads come away one by one, and when her mouth is finally free, she opens it and screams. Not sound, but that same silent frequency that makes reality feel thin, breakable. "You shouldn't be here," she finally gasps, her voice wet and ruined. "You shouldn't. It's feeding. It's always feeding. Every guest who stays, every person who sleeps in these rooms, it takes a piece. Just a small piece at first. Dreams, memories, little fragments of soul. But it's never enough. Never enough. I gave it 32 people, 32 souls over 3 years, and it still won't give him back." She's crying now, tears mixing with blood. "I killed my son. I held him under the water and I watched him die because he was going to leave. Going to Boston, going to start a life away from me. And I couldn't let him go. So I killed him. And then I couldn't live with what I'd done. So I made the bargain, built the hotel on Harrow's Field, let it feed on the guests. Thought if I gave it enough it would trade. Give me Jonathan back, take them instead. But it doesn't work that way," I say, horror dawning. "Does it?" She shakes her head violently. "The land doesn't trade. It only takes. And once you've fed it, once you've given it permission to feed, it never stops. It gets hungry. Hungrier." The guests started disappearing faster. Not just pieces anymore. Whole people. Gone between one breath and the next. "And Jonathan, my Jonathan." She points to the mirror on the wall and I see him. A young man in the reflection standing behind Sarah. But he's wrong. His skin is too pale, almost translucent. His eyes are hollow pits, and his mouth hangs open in a silent scream that has no end. "He's here," Sarah whispers. "He's been here the whole time. Trapped. Because the land doesn't just take the living. It took my dead son too. Pulled him up from whatever rest he'd found and chained him here. And now he can't leave. None of them can leave. All 32 guests, my son, and soon." She looks at me, and I see the truth in her eyes. "Soon you." The candles go out simultaneously. Darkness floods the room, complete and suffocating. I hear Sarah moving, her hands scrabbling across the floor, and I back toward the door, but it's already closed, and when I reach for the handle, it's gone. Just smooth wall where the door should be. Something touches my face. Cold fingers, too many joints, trailing across my cheek like a lover's caress. I swing the lantern in that direction, and for just a moment, I see them all. The disappeared guests. They're standing in the room with me, pressed close, shoulder to shoulder, a crowd of pale, translucent figures with hollow eyes and open mouths. They're not screaming anymore. They're waiting. And in the mirror I see myself. But I'm not alone in the reflection. Something stands behind me, something tall and dark and ancient, something that has been patient for so long, feeding on scraps, waiting for the moment when it could finally have everything. The door reappears. I stumble through it, slam it behind me, and run. Down the hallway, down the stairs, through the parlor, but the front door, the door I came through this morning, is gone. Just wall. Solid wall covered in that bird and branch wallpaper, and beneath it I can see handprints pushing through, dozens of hands trying to break free. The hotel has decided. I'm not leaving. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Think back to a time when you ignored a warning, when you saw the signs but pushed forward anyway, convinced you knew better. That moment when you realized, too late, That some warnings aren't meant to be heeded. They're meant to mark the place where everything changed. Where would you be now if you'd listened? I find myself in the dining room without remembering how I got there. My sense of time has completely fractured. Minutes blur into hours, hours compress into seconds. The hotel is doing something to me, the same thing it did to the guests, taking pieces. The dining room table is set for dinner. 32 place settings, each with fine china and crystal glasses, cloth napkins folded into elaborate shapes. The plates are covered with silver domes, the kind used to keep food warm. Steam rises from beneath them, and the smell, roasted meat, herbs, something sweet, makes my stomach growl despite everything. I shouldn't touch them. Every instinct screams not to touch them. But my hands move independently, reaching for the nearest dome, lifting it. The plate beneath holds a human heart, fresh, still bleeding. It pulses once, twice, then goes still. I lift another dome, a tongue, another, eyes. 32 domes, 32 organs. A complete human body disassembled and served up like a feast. I'm going to be sick. I turn away from the table, and that's when I see the portrait on the wall. It's large, dominating the space above the fireplace, and I don't know how I missed it before. It shows the Williams family in happier times, Sarah younger, smiling. Her husband, a stern man with dark hair, David and Elizabeth looking prosperous and proud. And between them, a young man with Sarah's eyes and a gentle smile. Jonathan. But as I watch, the paint begins to move. Jonathan's smile fades. His eyes hollow out. His skin pales to that translucent shade I saw in the mirror. And then he begins to decay. Flesh rotting away, revealing bone, revealing the truth beneath the surface. In seconds, the portrait shows a skeleton where Jonathan once stood, and the rest of the family remains unchanged, smiling, pretending not to notice that their son and brother is already dead. It's a memory, Sarah's voice says behind me. The hotel absorbs memories. Every moment of suffering, every secret whispered in the dark, every lie told across these tables. It soaks into the walls like blood into fabric, and then it shows you, makes you see what it knows. I turn. She's standing in the doorway, no longer rocking, no longer crying. She looks calm now, resigned. The wounds on her mouth have stopped bleeding, already scabbing over. Why did you sew your mouth shut? I ask. To stop myself from calling him. I kept calling his name, you see, night after night after night, begging him to answer, to come back. And one night he did, or something that wore his face did. It came to my bedroom and sat on the edge of my bed and opened its mouth, and inside was... She stops, shudders. Inside was everyone, all 32 guests, screaming from inside him. Because that's what this place does. It doesn't keep souls separate. It absorbs them all into one mass, one writhing, suffering consciousness. Every person who dies here becomes part of it, part of the hotel itself. You knew this, I say slowly. You knew, and you kept bringing people anyway. I thought if I gave it enough, it would let him go. I thought if I fed it until it was satisfied, it would release my son, and I could finally have him back. But it will never be satisfied. It will feed forever. And Jonathan is already too far gone. He's not my son anymore. He's part of the walls, the floors, the air itself. He's in every room, every shadow. He is the hotel now. She walks to the table and lifts one of the silver domes, stares at what's underneath with the detached curiosity of someone who has seen too much horror to feel it anymore. This is my husband, she says quietly. Richard. He tried to stop me, tried to go to the authorities, tell them what was happening, so She gestures at the spread of organs. I gave him to the house, piece by piece, while he was still alive, while he could still scream. The horror of it crashes over me. You killed your own husband? The hotel kills, she corrects. I just helped, just like David and Elizabeth help now. We're all guilty. All of us have blood on our hands. That's what binds you to this place. Not the land's curse, not some ancient evil. Guilt. Your own guilt. Once you've done something unforgivable within these walls, you can never truly leave. A part of you stays here forever. She looks at me with those fevered, mad eyes. What have you done, Thomas Brennan? What unforgivable sin have you committed that brought you to this doorstep? My throat closes. How does she know my name? I never, but I did. I introduced myself when I arrived this morning. Except it wasn't morning anymore. Wasn't today. The calendar on the wall shows a date that's impossible. 3 weeks have passed since I walked through the front door. 3 weeks that I experienced as hours. No, I whisper. No, that's not possible. I've only been here a few hours. I can't have... The hotel feeds on time the same way it feeds on souls, Sarah says. You've been walking these halls for 3 weeks, Thomas. Sleeping in the rooms, eating the food we left for you. Drinking the water from the well in the basement, the same well where Jonathan drowned, the same well that feeds directly into the cursed ground. You've been consuming this place, and it's been consuming you. I look down at my hands. The skin is wrong, too pale, slightly translucent. I can see the bones beneath, the veins, the tendons. I'm becoming like them, like the guests in the mirror. No, I say again, but my voice lacks conviction. They'll find your records back in town, Sarah continues, relentless. They'll find that you accepted a job cataloging furniture for an estate sale, but they won't find you. They'll search for a few days, maybe a week, then move on. Another disappearance, another mystery, and eventually someone else will come. Another catalog maker, another inspector, another fool who thinks they can walk into the Williams family hotel and walk back out unchanged. Why are you telling me this? She smiles, and it's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Because you're going to help me end it. That's why the hotel let you in. That's why it showed you everything. It's tired too, Thomas. After 32 souls and 3 years of feeding, the entity beneath this hotel has grown too powerful, too aware. It doesn't want to be fed anymore in small pieces. It wants everything, all of us, all at once. A final feast. And then maybe it will sleep again. Maybe it will let us all sleep. I don't understand. The hotel is ready to collapse. Not physically, spiritually. All those souls trapped inside it, all that suffering compressed into these walls, it's reached critical mass. One more death, one more soul added to the collection, and the whole thing will implode, taking everyone and everything with it. She reaches into her dress and pulls out a knife. The blade is old, tarnished, but sharp. She holds it out to me. I need you to kill me, she says simply. I'm the anchor. I'm the one who made the bargain, who opened the door and invited the hunger in. My death, given willingly, will break the chain. Will let the hotel finally devour itself completely. Everyone trapped here. The 32 guests, Jonathan, Richard, even David and Elizabeth hiding somewhere in these walls. They'll finally be released. Not to peace, perhaps, but to an ending, which is more than any of us have had in 3 years. I don't take the knife. You're insane. I'm not going to kill you. Then you'll stay here. Forever. Fading piece by piece until you're nothing but another reflection in a mirror, another set of footsteps in an empty room. Is that what you want? There has to be another way. There isn't. Her voice is flat, certain. I've tried everything. Burning the hotel down, it won't catch fire. Tearing down the walls, they repair themselves. Starving the entity, it just takes more forcefully. The only way out is through death, through ending. The knife hangs between us, an impossible choice. And then I hear it, a sound that makes everything else fade into insignificance, a voice. Calling from somewhere deep in the hotel, echoing up through the walls, through the floors, through my bones. Thomas. It's my mother's voice. My mother who died 10 years ago. My mother whose death No. No, I'm not thinking about that. I can't think about that. Thomas, come find me. I've been waiting so long. Sarah watches my face. What did you do? She asks softly. What really brought you here? The memory crashes through my defenses. I'm 19 years old. I'm holding a pillow. My mother is dying of consumption, wasting away, drowning in her own lungs. She's begging me to end it, to help her, to stop the suffering. And I do. I press the pillow over her face and I hold it there, and I tell myself it's mercy. But I felt her fight. I felt her try to breathe, and I kept holding until she stopped. They called it natural. The doctor signed the death certificate. Consumption. But I know the truth. I killed my mother, and I've been running from that truth for 10 years. That's your guilt, Sarah says, understanding blooming across her ravaged face. That's what the hotel smelled on you. That's why it opened its doors. Not because you were hired to catalog furniture. Because you were already damned. Already carrying the weight of unforgivable sin. The hotel doesn't choose randomly. It chooses people who have already fed it, who have already taken life and told themselves it was necessary. I was helping her, I whisper. She was suffering. So was Jonathan. So were all 32 guests. Everyone has a reason. Everyone has a justification. But the land beneath this hotel doesn't care about reasons. It only cares about blood. About the moment when you cross the line between living and taking life. And once you cross it, you're marked, you're claimed, and eventually, inevitably, you find your way here. The voice calls again. Thomas, please, it hurts so much. End it. End me. It's not my mother. Can't be my mother. But God help me. I want it to be. I want the chance to see her again. To explain. To be forgiven. Even if forgiveness comes from something wearing her face like a mask. I take the knife from Sarah's hand. That's it, she breathes. That's the only way. Kill me. Let the hotel feed one last time. Let it finally have the death it's been waiting for, the death of its creator. And then run. Run as fast as you can. Because when the walls start to collapse, they won't stop until everything is consumed. The building, the land, everyone inside it, all of it will fold in on itself like a mouth closing. And if you're still here when that happens, you'll be swallowed too. I look at the knife in my hand, at this mad old woman who built a hotel on cursed ground and fed its souls for 3 years, at the dining room with its grotesque feast, at my own translucent hands. But Sarah Williams is lying. I realize it in the space between one heartbeat and the next. A small detail, but wrong. She said her husband Richard tried to go to the authorities, but in the ledger, in Elizabeth's handwriting, she called him my husband. David is Elizabeth's husband, not Richard. Sarah's husband was never mentioned because he never existed, I say aloud. Did he? Sarah's face goes blank. Then slowly, horribly, it splits into a smile. Her mouth opens wider than it should be able to, jaw unhinging like a snake's, and when she speaks, it's not her voice anymore. It's multiple voices layered together. Men, women, children, all 32 guests. And beneath them all, something older, something that has been waiting under cursed ground since 1692. Clever little soul, the hotel says through Sarah's mouth. We thought this one would be easy, thought the guilt would make you weak, but you're sharper than the others, sharper than we needed. Sarah's body jerks, puppet-like, her arms spread wide. But it doesn't matter. Lie or truth, you're already ours. Look at your hands. Look at your shadow. I look. My shadow on the wall has too many arms, too many legs, is shaped wrong in ways that make my eyes hurt. And my hands, they're not translucent anymore, they're transparent. I can see straight through them to the floorboards beneath. 3 weeks of consuming our essence. 3 weeks of breathing our air, drinking our water, sleeping in our beds. You're more hotel than human now. Soon you'll be another voice in the chorus, another piece of the mass, another. I stab the knife into the table, into the heart sitting on the plate. Blood spurts, and the voices scream, not from Sarah, but from everywhere, from the walls, the floors, the ceiling. The heart begins to beat again, faster and faster, and the other organs on the table start to move, pulsing and writhing like they're trying to reassemble themselves. You told me one true thing, I say to whatever wears Sarah's face. You said the hotel is ready to collapse, that it's reached critical mass. But it's not waiting for Sarah's death. It's waiting for a choice, waiting for someone to reject it, to choose not to feed it, to choose not to kill. I throw the knife across the room. It clatters against the wall and falls. I won't be another piece of you, I say. I won't add to your mass. Whatever I did to my mother, whatever guilt I carry, I'm done letting it control me. You don't get to have that. You don't get to have me. The voices rise to a shriek. The organs on the table explode, spraying blood across the walls, across me, across everything. The floorboards beneath my feet crack, and I see darkness underneath. Not a crawl space, but an endless void filled with reaching hands. And then, through the chaos, I hear a different voice. Young, male, desperate. Run. Jonathan. The real Jonathan. Not the thing that wears his face, but whatever fragment of him still exists, separate from the hotel's consciousness. The door, he says, and I see it. The front door has reappeared, standing open, morning light streaming through. Impossible morning light, because it should be night, should be weeks into the future, but the hotel's grip on time is fracturing, along with everything else. I run, past Sarah's convulsing body, past the dining room table with its shattered feast, past the parlor with its watching mirrors. The door seems to recede as I approach, hallway stretching like taffy, but I keep running, lungs burning, heart hammering, my transparent hands reaching for solid wood and brass. I hit the door frame at full speed and go through. And then I'm outside, sprawled on the ground, gasping, and the hotel is behind me, and it's screaming. Actually screaming, a sound like metal tearing and stone cracking and 1,000 voices crying out at once. I watch as the windows shatter outward, as the walls begin to bow inward, as the roof buckles. The hotel is collapsing, but not physically. It's folding in on itself in ways that geometry shouldn't allow. Walls meeting where walls should never meet. Spaces overlapping, dimensions compressing. It's eating itself, consuming its own mass, and taking everything inside with it. I see them in the windows as the building folds. Sarah, David, Elizabeth, the 32 guests. And Jonathan standing in what used to be room 17, watching me with hollow eyes. He raises one hand, whether in farewell or warning, I'll never know. And then the hotel completes its collapse. One moment it's there, a massive building taking up space and substance. The next it's gone, just gone, not destroyed, not burned, erased. Where the Williams family hotel stood, there's only an empty foundation overgrown with weeds and a sign half fallen that reads, "Property of Cook family, no trespassing." As if it never existed at all. As if I dreamed the whole thing. But my hands are still transparent at the edges. And when I look in a puddle of rainwater at my feet, I see my reflection has too many shadows behind it. The hotel is gone, but I brought pieces of it out with me. Fragments that will never leave. Memories that taste like copper and rot. The weight of 33 souls, 32 guests, Jonathan and my own mother, pressing against my consciousness. I didn't feed the hotel, but I didn't escape it either. No one ever really does. I make it back to Salem town center as the sun climbs toward noon. The streets are busy with morning commerce, vendors hawking fish and bread, children running between horses, women haggling over fabric. Normal life. the kind that seems impossible after what I've witnessed. I go straight to the magistrate's office, determined to report what happened. But when I ask to see records of the Williams family hotel, the clerk looks at me like I've sprouted a second head. "There's no Williams Hotel in Salem," he says. "Never has been." "On Salem Road," I insist. "You must have records, building permits, tax records, something." He checks his ledgers, flips through pages, shakes his head. "The only property on Salem Road is the old Cook estate. Been abandoned since Thaddeus Cook died 3 years back. His heirs let it go to ruin. Nothing but a foundation left now." 3 years? I grab his ledger, scan the dates myself. Thaddeus Cook died in 1783, not 1785. The letter I read in the hotel's office, the one where he warned Sarah Williams about the cursed land, it was dated 2 years after his death. Written by a dead man, or written by something that wanted me to believe a specific story. "You feeling all right, friend?" the clerk asks, genuine concern in his voice. "You're white as milk." I look down at my hands. They're solid again, completely opaque. No transparency, no hint of what I saw before. But in the polished brass of the clerk's inkwell, I catch a glimpse of my reflection. My shadow has too many angles. "I'm fine," I lie. "I must have been confused." I leave the office and wander through Salem, trying to piece together what's real and what was the hotel's fabrication. The ledger, Sarah's letters, the newspaper clippings. Were any of them genuine? Or did the hotel create an entire narrative to trap me? But then I pass a cemetery, and something makes me stop. I walk among the graves, reading names, and there, near the back, half hidden by weeds, I find it. Jonathan Brennan, 1767-1784, beloved son. Not Jonathan Williams, Jonathan Brennan. My brother. The memory slams into me with physical force. I had a brother. An older brother who died when I was 9 years old. We were playing near a creek. He slipped on wet rocks, fell into the water, hit his head, went under. And I stood there, frozen. For how long? 10 seconds? 30? Long enough that when I finally pulled him out, he was already gone. I told everyone I tried to save him that the current was too strong, that I couldn't reach him in time. But the truth I've buried so deep I forgot it existed, is that I watched him drown. I stood on the bank, 9 years old and paralyzed with fear, and I did nothing while my brother died 3 feet away from me. And my mother never forgave me. She wasted away after Jonathan's death, consumed by grief and unspoken blame. And when consumption finally took her 10 years later, when she was drowning in her own lungs, she looked at me with such hatred that I gave her mercy, but maybe also revenge. Maybe I was finally doing what she'd wanted all along, making her son suffer the way she'd suffered, letting her drown like Jonathan drowned. The hotel didn't create my guilt. It found it, excavated it, showed me the truth I'd been running from since I was 9 years old. I killed my brother through inaction. I killed my mother through action. And the thing under the cursed ground, whatever lives beneath Harrow's field, it fed on that guilt. It called me to Salem. Made me believe I was hired for a simple cataloging job. Led me to a building that may or may not have ever existed, filled with victims who may or may not have been real. But the guilt was real. The guilt was always real. I spend the next 3 days in Salem asking questions, searching records. I find no evidence of Sarah Williams, David Williams, Elizabeth Williams. No record of any hotel on Salem Road. No newspaper articles about mysterious disappearances. The 32 guests, the elaborate rooms, the dinners and the mirrors, and the screaming silence, none of it existed outside my experience. But I do find records of Jeremiah Harrow. He was hanged in 1692, accused of witchcraft. According to trial transcripts I discover in the town archives, he cursed the land where they executed him. Said it would feed on those who feed on others. That it would show the guilty their true faces. and I find burial records. They built the gallows over an old well. After Harrow's execution, they sealed the well, but not before 3 people drowned in it under mysterious circumstances. The site was abandoned, cursed, forbidden, exactly where the hotel stood in my experience. On my 4th day in Salem, I prepare to leave. Pack my few belongings, settle my boarding house account, arrange for a horse and cart back to Boston. But that night, I dream. I'm walking through the hotel again, but it's different. Empty. Silent. No Sarah, no guests, no organs on silver plates, just room after room of stripped beds and dust. I walk up to room 17, push open the door. Jonathan sits on the bed. My brother. 9 years old, hair wet and plastered to his forehead, water dripping from his clothes. He looks exactly as he did the day he died. "You left me," he says, not accusing, just stating a fact. "I was scared," I whisper. "I didn't know what to do. You watched me drown. I know. And then you killed Mother. I was trying to help her." He shakes his head slowly. "You were trying to stop her from looking at you the way I look at you now. Like you're the reason we're dead." I want to argue, but the words die in my throat, because he's right. Every time my mother looked at me after Jonathan's death, I saw the accusation in her eyes. And I couldn't bear it. So when she was dying, when she asked me to help her end the suffering, I said yes, not because I wanted to ease her pain, but because I wanted to stop seeing that look. "What do I do?" I ask my brother's ghost. "How do I make this right?" "You can't," he says simply. "What's done is done. But you can stop running. You can stop pretending it didn't happen. You can carry it." I don't know if I'm strong enough. "You're not." He stands, water pooling around his feet. "But you'll do it anyway. Because the alternative is ending up like Sarah, building hotels on cursed ground, trying to make deals with things that don't trade, feeding guilt until it becomes something that eats everything you are." He walks toward me, and I see that he's not quite my brother anymore. Not quite Jonathan. He's something the guilt created, a manifestation, a reminder. "The hotel showed you the truth," he says. "Not about some family in Salem, about yourself, about what you're capable of. And now you get to choose. Do you let that guilt consume you, or do you use it? Use it how? Prevent others from making the same mistakes. Recognize the signs, the people who are drowning in guilt, who are capable of feeding the darkness. Find them before they find places like Harrow's Field, before they build their own hotels, before they start collecting souls to fill the void inside them." He reaches out and touches my chest. His hand passes through, but I feel it anyway. Cold spreading from the center of my ribs, filling my lungs, my heart, my blood. "You're marked now," Jonathan says. "You've been to the edge of that darkness and come back. You know what it smells like, what it sounds like, what it costs. Use that. Help people before they fall so far they can't be saved." I wake up gasping, covered in cold sweat. My chest aches where Dream Jonathan touched me. And when I press my palm there, I feel something. A scar that wasn't there before. Circular, raised, like a brand. The hotel marked me after all. I leave Salem that morning, but I don't go back to Boston. Instead, I travel. Town to town, city to city. I learn to recognize the signs. The people who carry guilt like a physical weight. The ones who are spiraling, who are starting to make bargains they shouldn't make, who are searching for ways to undo what they've done. I find them. I talk to them. Sometimes I can help, sometimes I can't. But I try. Because Jonathan was right. I can't undo what I did. Can't bring back my brother or my mother. Can't erase the choices I made or the consequences that followed. But I can stop other people from building their own Williams family hotels. From creating their own feeding grounds for darkness. It's not redemption. It's not forgiveness. But it's something. It's a way to carry the weight without being crushed by it. And some nights when I close my eyes, I still see the hotel, still hear the voices, still feel the heat of those floorboards pulsing like a heartbeat. The hotel may have collapsed, may have erased itself from reality, but it left pieces behind, in me, in anyone who came close enough to understand what it really was. A mirror, not for the building or the land or some ancient evil, a mirror for human guilt, for what we do to ourselves and each other when we can't accept what we've done, when we try to undo it, trade it, feed it to something else instead of carrying it ourselves. The hotel was never the monster. We were, all of us. And that's the truth that makes me wake up screaming, not the transparent hands or the organs on plates or the voices in the walls, but the knowledge that given the right circumstances, given enough pain and guilt and desperation, any of us could build our own version of the Williams family hotel. Any of us could become Sarah Williams. Any of us could feed the darkness until it learns to feed on itself. 20 years pass. I'm in my 40s now, graying at the temples, lines carved deep around my eyes and mouth. I've traveled through Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York. Everywhere I go, I find them, the builders, people who are so consumed by guilt that they're starting to create their own cursed spaces. Not always hotels, sometimes houses, sometimes wells or crossroads or stretches of forest, places where guilt has weight, where it accumulates, where it begins to take on life of its own. I've stopped 12 from completing their work, convinced them to face what they did instead of trying to trade it away. I've failed with 7. Those places exist now, scattered across New England, feeding quietly in the darkness. I mark them on a map I carry, places to avoid, places where the guilty go to disappear. But I've never been back to Salem, never been back to Harrow's Field, until today. A letter reached me in Providence, no signature, just an address in Salem and a single sentence. Your brother is waiting. I knew it was a trap, knew that whatever sent that letter wasn't Jonathan. But I went anyway, because some traps you walk into with open eyes. The foundation is still there, overgrown and forgotten. But now there's something new. A small building, barely more than a shack, built directly on top of where the hotel used to stand. And outside it, a sign, Museum of Forgotten Places. Admission free. Enter, if you dare. The shack's door stands open. Inside, I hear voices. Not screaming this time, conversation, laughter. The sound of normal people having a normal experience. I walk inside. The interior is larger than it should be, not impossibly so, but noticeably wrong. The walls are covered in photographs, newspaper clippings, artifacts, each one documenting a place like the hotel. A house in Connecticut where 5 people disappeared. A well in Rhode Island that supposedly grants wishes but costs years of life. A stretch of forest in New York where compasses spin backward and time moves differently. All the places I marked on my map. All the places I failed to stop from being completed. And in the center of the room, sitting at a small desk, is a woman. She's young, maybe 30, with dark hair and sharp eyes. She looks up when I enter and smiles. Mr. Brennan, I was wondering when you'd arrive. Who are you? My name is Catherine Harrow. I'm a descendant of Jeremiah Harrow, the man who cursed the land you're standing on. My blood runs cold. What do you want? To thank you. She gestures at the walls, at the photographs and artifacts. You've been doing exactly what my ancestor intended, finding the guilty, marking the places where guilt feeds, creating a map of American darkness. And now, she stands, walks to me, and I see that her shadow is wrong too. Too many angles, too many arms. Now we have enough places, enough guilt, enough suffering. The network is complete. Network? Did you think Harrow's Field was unique? That Salem was special? My ancestor didn't curse one place, Mr. Brennan. He cursed a pattern, A method. A way for guilt to take root and spread. Every place you've marked, every location you've tried to warn people away from, is a node. And when they're all connected, when the guilt in one place resonates with the guilt in another, they create something far more powerful than a single haunted hotel. She walks to the wall and pulls down a map. It's covered in red marks, all the places I've documented over 20 years, and she's drawn lines between them, connecting them, creating a web that covers most of New England. This is what happens when you try to save people, Catherine says softly. You show them their darkness, and darkness, once acknowledged, spreads, finds others like it, links together. You thought you were preventing hotels like the Williams. Instead, you've been building one enormous hotel, one massive feeding ground. With every person you helped, every place you marked, you've been expanding the curse's reach. I can't breathe, can't think. No, I was stopping them. You were teaching guilt how to recognize itself, how to find its own kind. And now there are hundreds of people across New England who carry pieces of cursed places inside them. People who visited the locations, people who built them, people who tried to stop them. All marked, all connected, all feeding the same hunger that started in 1692 when my ancestor stood on a gallows and cursed the soil. She touches my chest, right where the scar is, the brand from the hotel, and I feel it activate, feel it connect to something vast and old and patient. The hotel you visited was never about the Williams family, Catherine says. It was about you, about creating someone who would travel, who would spread the curse, who would mark person after person, place after place, until the network was complete. You've been our missionary, Thomas, our prophet of guilt. And now, the work is done. Outside the shack, I hear something. A sound like wind, but deeper, more resonant. It's coming from the ground beneath Harrow's field, from the sealed well where Jeremiah Harrow cursed the land. And it's not just here. I can feel it. All across the map Catherine drew, in every marked location, the same sound is rising. The same hunger is waking up. What have I done? I whisper. Exactly what guilt always does, Catherine says. It replicates, it spreads, it finds new hosts and new feeding grounds. You couldn't carry your guilt alone, so you shared it. And everyone you shared it with went out and shared it with others. Exponential growth, 20 years of exponential growth, and now we have enough guilt to feed something that hasn't eaten properly in centuries. The floorboards beneath my feet begin to warm, that familiar pulse, that heartbeat. But this time it's not just one building, it's the entire network, every cursed place, every marked person, all of them beating in sync. You have a choice, Catherine says. You can run, try to get away before it fully wakes. You might even make it. You're good at running. You've been running since you were 9 years old. Or you stay, face what you've built, let it consume you completely, add your guilt to the foundation, and maybe, when it's finished feeding, when it's finally satisfied, it will sleep again for another few centuries, until the next guilty person comes along and starts the cycle over. I think about Jonathan, about my mother, about all the people I thought I was helping over 20 years, about how good intentions can build just as many hells as bad ones. If I stay, I say slowly, if I let it take me, will it end? Will the curse break? No. Catherine's smile is sad, but it will sleep. And sleeping is the best we can hope for with things like this. Guilt never really ends, Thomas. It just goes quiet for a while. I look at the map on the wall, at all the red marks, at all the lines connecting them. I did this. Trying to save people, I built a web large enough to trap an entire region. Maybe this is what redemption really looks like. Not forgiveness, not absolution. Just accepting the consequences of your actions and standing still while they consume you. I sit down on the floor in the center of the room, directly above where the hotel used to be, directly above the sealed well, directly above the cursed soil. "I'm ready," I say. Catherine nods. "I'll remember you. I'll add you to the museum." Thomas Brennan, who tried to save people from their guilt and instead taught it how to spread. Future visitors will see your story, learn from it, and maybe they'll understand that some things shouldn't be fought, only carried, only accepted. The warmth from the floorboards becomes heat, then fire. I feel myself sinking, the floor becoming soft, becoming permeable. I'm falling through it, through the foundation, through the earth itself, down into the dark place where Jeremiah Harrow cursed the soil 300 years ago. And I see them all, every person I marked, every place I documented. They're all here in this darkness, connected by threads of guilt that pulse like veins. We're a body, a living thing made of suffering and regret. And at the center, where a heart should be, there's an open mouth, waiting, hungry. I let it take me. The last thing I feel before I dissolve completely is relief. Finally, after 30 years of running from what I did to Jonathan and my mother, I'm stopping. I'm standing still. I'm accepting the weight I should have carried all along. And in that acceptance, in that stillness, I hear my brother's voice one final time. "It's okay. You can rest now." The Museum of Forgotten Places still stands in Salem, on the foundation of what may or may not have been the Williams family hotel. Catherine Harrow runs it, adding new exhibits every few years as more cursed places emerge across New England. Thomas Brennan's story is prominently displayed, a cautionary tale about guilt and good intentions, about how trying to save people from their darkness can just spread that darkness further. Visitors come. They read the stories. They look at the photographs. They feel the slight warmth in the floorboards and dismiss it as faulty heating. They leave, thinking they've experienced something interesting, a tourist attraction, a bit of local folklore. They don't notice that they leave different than they arrived, don't notice the slight change in their shadows. The way guilt they were carrying seems sharper now, more aware, more connected to something larger than themselves. The network grows, place by place, person by person. The pattern Jeremiah Harrow cursed into existence in 1692 continues to replicate, continues to spread, continues to find new hosts. Because guilt is the most contagious thing in the world. We share it without meaning to. We pass it along in conversations and confessions and quiet moments of recognition when we see our own darkness reflected in someone else's eyes. The Williams family hotel never existed, but it exists everywhere now. In every place where guilt accumulates. In every person who carries the weight of something unforgivable. In every moment when we choose to feed our darkness instead of carrying it. The hotel is inside all of us, waiting, hungry, patient. And every time we try to get rid of our guilt, every time we try to trade it, hide it, feed it to something else, we're just building more rooms, more floors, more mirrors that reflect what we don't want to see. The only way to escape the Williams family hotel is to never enter it in the first place. To carry your guilt instead of feeding it. To accept your darkness instead of trying to make deals with it. To stand still instead of running. But how many of us are capable of that? How many of us, faced with unbearable guilt, wouldn't at least consider looking for a place like Harrow's Field? A place that promises to take the weight away? That's the question Catherine Harrow asks everyone who visits the museum. Not out loud. Just silently, watching their faces as they read Thomas Brennan's story. Watching for the moment of recognition. The moment when they understand that they're not just reading about someone else's guilt. They're reading about their own. And once they understand that, once they acknowledge it, they're marked, connected, added to the network. The museum has been open for 5 years now. Thousands of visitors have passed through. Thousands of people marked and sent back into the world, carrying pieces of the curse with them, spreading it to everyone they touch. In another 20 years, the network will be ready for the next phase. Another Thomas Brennan will emerge. Someone desperate to help, to save, to prevent others from falling into the same darkness they've experienced. And they'll do exactly what Thomas did. They'll travel. They'll mark. They'll connect. They'll build the network even larger. It's a beautiful system, really. Self-replicating, self-sustaining, fed by the one thing humans produce in endless supply: guilt. Jeremiah Harrow knew exactly what he was doing when he cursed that soil. He didn't just curse a place, he cursed human nature itself. And human nature never changes. You stayed until the end. Most don't. Most leave at the first hint of darkness, at the first suggestion that the story might be about them. But you didn't. You stayed. You read every word. You followed Thomas Brennan into the hotel and out again. You walked through the cursed places and the marked people. You saw the network spread, which means you're like him, like Sarah Williams, like everyone who ever built a room in the hotel. You carry something, some guilt, some darkness, some weight you'd do anything to put down. And now you know where to find it. Now you know the pattern. Now you know that places like Harrow's Field exist, that they're waiting, that they're hungry. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Will you carry your guilt, or will you start looking for a place to feed it? Either way, you're marked now. You've been added to the network just by reading this story, by staying until the end, by understanding. Welcome to the hotel. We've been waiting for you. If this story reached you, if it found its way into your awareness, then someone close to you needs to hear it too. Needs to understand the pattern. Needs to be warned. Or maybe they need to be marked. Maybe they're the next person who'll start building their own cursed place. Share this. Not because it's entertaining, but because it's a responsibility. Because guilt spreads, and the only way to stop it from consuming everything is to acknowledge it, to face it, to carry it together. The network grows, person by person, story by story, and you're part of it now. There's no escaping the Williams family hotel, because it was never a place. It's what we build inside ourselves when we can't accept what we've done. And we've all built at least one room.